She was 8 years old when she asked the question, "Mom, why do I have 2 birthdays?" And just like that, everything froze. The clinking of dishes, the hum of the refrigerator, even the soft thud of rain outside the kitchen window. Her mother dropped the knife she was using to cut strawberries. It hit the floor like a gunshot. For a second, she didn't respond. She didn't move, just stared at the white tile beneath her feet. Then, slowly, she turned to look at her daughter. Ellie sat at the table, swinging her feet, biting the corner of her toast. Innocent, smiling, unaware. "Who told you that, sweetheart?" her mother asked, voice just barely above a whisper. Ellie shrugged. "You did. Last year you said I was born in March, but this year the cake said April. I saw the card from Grandma, too. It said April the 12th. Why, did you change it?" Her mother tried to smile, tried to make it into a joke, but her hands were shaking. That night, Ellie heard muffled voices through the walls, arguing, her mother and father, whisper-screaming in the hallway. Like they didn't want her to hear, but she did. "You told me this would never come up. She's a child. How was I supposed to know she'd notice? She's not stupid. She's asking questions." "Then we lie." "Like we agreed. We keep her safe." The next morning nothing was said, no explanations. Just scrambled eggs and juice. A kiss on the forehead. Business as usual, but Ellie kept thinking about it. Why would someone lie about a birthday? At school, she asked her teacher if people could be born twice. The teacher smiled, thinking it was a silly question. She said no, but sometimes adopted. Kids celebrate 2 birthdays, their birth date and their gotcha day. Ellie blinked. Adopted? When she got home, she pulled out the box from under her bed. The one with baby pictures, hospital bracelets, a tiny pink hat. She flipped through the photos. There was her mom, holding her, and her dad, smiling. But none of the pictures had dates except one, a Polaroid of her in a hospital crib, swaddled in yellow. On the back, someone had written, March 8th, the date her mom said last year. She tucked it under her pillow and said nothing. That night, Ellie waited until everyone was asleep. She crept into the hallway. Her parents' room door was cracked. She heard her dad's voice. "We should have told her from the beginning." Her mom's voice trembled. "No. You saw what it did to me. To us. She deserves a normal life. But what if she finds out some other way? What if—" Ellie backed away, heart pounding, eyes burning. The next day, she didn't go to recess. She sat alone in the library, turning pages in silence. Adopted. The word echoed in her chest like a bell, sharp, loud, wrong. Was she? She looked nothing like her mom. Different nose, different eyes. Her dad, maybe, but her skin was slightly darker. And sometimes grown-ups in the grocery store would ask her mom if she was babysitting. She always laughed, said, "No, she's mine." People say she looks just like her father. But now Ellie wasn't so sure. She waited until the weekend. When her parents went out for groceries, she went into their room, opened drawers, looked for something, anything. She found a manila envelope in the back of her dad's closet. It was thick. Inside were papers, legal ones, petition for name change, temporary custody agreement, and a birth certificate. Ellie James Holloway. Born, March 8, 2017. Mother, unknown. Father, unknown. She felt the floor shift under her feet. Her knees buckled. She sat down hard on the carpet. Unknown? But that wasn't the worst part. There was another certificate underneath. Another name. Amara Elise Bennett. Same birth date, same hospital, different name, different parents. And taped to the corner was a photo, a blurry one. But it was her. No doubt, same eyes, same curls, same birthmark under her chin. But her name wasn't Ellie. Her name was Amara. She shoved the papers back inside. But the world no longer made sense. She was adopted. Or something worse. She didn't sleep that night. She kept seeing that name, Amara. It felt heavy on her tongue, foreign, but familiar. The next morning she asked her mom again, "Why do I have 2 birthdays?" Her mom dropped the spatula, and this time she didn't pretend. She sat down, her face pale. her hands trembling. "Sweetheart," she started, but the words stuck. "I found the papers," Ellie said. Silence. Her mother didn't even ask which papers, she just nodded. "I was going to tell you. When you were older," Ellie's voice was hollow. "Tell me what?" Her mother looked at her, and for the first time, Ellie saw fear, real fear. "You're not legally our daughter." The room tilted. Ellie couldn't breathe. "What does that mean?" Her mother wiped her eyes. "You were left at a clinic, in a car seat. No note, no ID, nothing." Ellie blinked. "Left? We were there. Your father and I. We saw the car drive off. We thought maybe your parents were inside. Maybe they'd come back, but they didn't." Her voice cracked. "You were crying, hungry, covered in a little blue blanket." Ellie's hands were ice cold. "But why didn't you call the police?" "We did, at first, but there was no record of you. No missing child alert. No one came forward. And after a week, we couldn't let you go." Tears ran down her mother's nunny cheeks. "You were ours." "In every way that mattered," Ellie's voice was a whisper. "So, you changed my name?" Her mother nodded. "We gave you a new birthday, a new start." A sob escaped her chest. "We just wanted you to be safe." That night, Ellie didn't speak. She sat on her bed holding the photo of the baby in the hospital crib. Amara. Was that who she was? Or just a name someone had given her? Was there someone out there looking for her? Or had they thrown her away? She Googled her birth name. Nothing came up. No news reports, no missing persons, no clues. At school, she was quiet, distracted. Her teacher asked if she was okay. She nodded, but her mind was racing. That weekend, she walked into the police station, alone. She handed the officer a photo. "This is me," she said. "I think I was abandoned." The officer looked at her, then at the photo. He called another officer over. A woman came out, asked her to sit, offered her juice, then she called her parents. They arrived within 10 minutes, frantic, scared, but the damage was done. The police opened an investigation. The papers were confiscated, the story documented. Her parents were questioned for hours. Child Services got involved. And just like that, Ellie's life was no longer hers. One afternoon, a woman came to visit. She said she was with the state. She asked Ellie to look at a photo. It was a couple. Tired eyes, hollow smiles. "Do you know them?" the woman asked. Ellie shook her head. The woman sighed. "They claim to be your biological parents." Ellie's breath caught. "They said you were taken." Her heart stopped. "What?" The woman closed. "The file, they said someone took you from their home in 2018. They filed a report. But it went cold. No leads, no suspects." Ellie's voice cracked. "So, who am I?" The woman just looked at her. "We're trying to find out." That night, her parents sat her down. Her mother's eyes were red. Her father looked broken. "We didn't steal you," he said. Her mother nodded. "We didn't know. We thought maybe someone left you there for a reason." Ellie stared at them. "But what if they didn't?" They didn't answer. She stood up, went to her room, and locked the door. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. She looked out the window, wondering, who were they? The ones who left her, or the ones who found her? And which one was worse? The silence. That followed felt like a lifetime, but something told her this was only the beginning. The truth hadn't fully surfaced, and when it did, it wouldn't be kind. They said her real name was Amara. They said she belonged to someone else, but the word belong never sat right with her. She wasn't an object. She wasn't a pet. She was a child caught in the space between two worlds. Neither one felt like home anymore. The visit started that week. The couple from the photo, Gregory and Lena Bennett, arrived in the town she'd always known as hers. They didn't knock on her door. That wasn't allowed. But Ellie knew they were close. Her caseworker told her they were staying in a motel near the highway. Just waiting for answers, waiting for her. She saw a picture of them when they were younger, holding a baby. Her, Amara. Her curls were shorter then, her cheeks rounder. The woman held her close like something she was afraid to lose. And maybe she was, because she did lose her. Ellie stared at the photo for hours, trying to feel something, recognition, nostalgia, warmth, but there was only a pit in her stomach. She didn't remember them. Mwah, not the woman's voice, not the man's laugh, not the way they said her name, Amara. That name still felt strange, like a coat that didn't fit, too big in the shoulders, too stiff at the sleeves. She told her mom that, the one who raised her, the one who lied. Her mom didn't flinch. She just nodded. I know, her dad hadn't shaved in days. He looked like he hadn't slept either. He didn't say much, just watched her with eyes that looked like they'd aged a decade in a week. Then came the hearing. Not a court battle? Not yet. Just a formal meeting. Social workers, legal reps, the Bennetts, and her. They sat across from each other in a room that smelled like old paper and nervous sweat. The Bennetts looked like they'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, but when they saw her, they froze. The woman gasped. The man blinked, like he was seeing a ghost. Oh, my God, the woman whispered. It's her. It's really her. Gregory tried to speak, but his voice cracked. He pressed a hand to his mouth. The caseworker cleared her throat. This is Eleanor Holloway, she said. Amara, Lena corrected, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her name is Amara. Ellie sat stiffly in the chair. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just stared. Gregory leaned forward. Do you remember us? She shook her head. He flinched. That's okay, Lena said softly. We can start over. But Ellie didn't answer, because the truth was, she didn't want to start over. She didn't want 2 birthdays. She wanted the lie to be true, that she was born into the home she'd always known, that the mother who packed her lunches and braided her hair was her real one. But now she had 2 mothers, and neither one felt fully hers. After the meeting, she asked her parents a question. The day you found me, what did the car look like? Her mom looked surprised. Why? Because I want to know what they drove away in. The people who left me. Her dad finally spoke. It was dark blue, old. Rust on the door. Ellie's voice dropped. Did you see their faces? He shook his head. Just silhouettes and brake lights. Brake lights. That was all she had. 2 red dots fading into the night. They said there'd be DNA tests, legal processes, maybe even a trial. But none of that mattered to Ellie, because in her mind, nothing would undo the last 8 years. No paper would rewrite her memories. No court would erase bedtime stories, scraped knees, Christmas mornings, and hugs that smelled like vanilla and fabric softener. But at night when she closed her eyes, something tugged at her, a sound, a melody. It would rise up from nowhere, a lullaby. Soft and lilting, in a voice she didn't recognize. Sleep, my star. The night is deep. She sat up in bed. She'd heard that song before, but not in this. House, not from this mother, not from this past. She asked her mom the next morning, Did you used to sing to me? Her mom blinked. Of course, every night. What song? She smiled. Twinkle, twinkle, the ABCs. Sometimes that one from Frozen. But not the lullaby. Not that one. Ellie searched it on her phone. It wasn't on YouTube or Spotify, not even lyrics on Google. It was real, but it didn't exist, except in her head. She asked to see the Bennetts again, not in court, just alone. They met in a room at the Family Services Center. Gregory brought juice. Lena brought a stuffed animal, a little bear with a purple ribbon around its neck. This was yours, she said softly. You called him Button. Ellie didn't take it. But she didn't look away either. I remember a song, she said. They went still. Lena leaned in. What song? Ellie swallowed. It goes, Sleep, my star. The night is deep. Gregory's eyes welled instantly. Lena began to cry. That's the song I wrote, she whispered. When you were a baby, you used to fall. Asleep on my chest. Ellie's throat tightened, because she hadn't told anyone the words, not even her journal. Lena took something from her purse, a flash drive. Here, she said, hand trembling. It's a recording from when you were 2. You were humming along. Ellie took it. She didn't say thank you. She couldn't. Her voice was gone. That night, she plugged the flash drive into her laptop. There was only one file, a grainy recording, static at first, then a soft humming, followed by a voice. Lena's, younger. "Sweeter, sleep, my star, the night is deep," and then her own voice, tiny, babbling, trying to hum along. Ellie pressed her hand to her mouth, the sound of her past, whispering through a speaker. Proof, not a maybe, not a possibility, a truth, undeniable. She didn't sleep that night, she just listened, over and over again. The next day her parents were waiting at the table, the ones who raised her. Their eyes said everything. They knew. She set the bear on the table, stared at them. "What if I want both?" she asked. They didn't answer right away. Then her dad nodded. "We'll fight, if we have to. But not against you." Her mom touched her hand. "We'll always be here, no matter what name you choose." Tears slipped down Ellie's face, because, for the first time, she realized something. This wasn't about birthdays or names or legal custody. It was about belonging, about identity, about the pieces of herself scattered across people, places, and pasts she hadn't chosen, and now she had. To decide, who was she, Ellie, Amara, both? Neither? The next day she went to school, sat at her desk, opened her notebook, and for the first time she didn't write her name at the top. She stared at the blank space, let it breathe. Then, slowly, she wrote, E. Bennett Holloway. The teacher called. Roll paused when she saw it, raised an eyebrow. Ellie just nodded. "Yes, that's me." The kids around her whispered, but she didn't care, because she'd made the choice, for now, for today. And maybe that was enough, but she still had questions, like what happened the night she vanished, why there were no records, why the Bennetts never found her, why she was left at that clinic, and most of all, who was behind it, because someone knew, and that someone had gone quiet for 8 years. But silence doesn't last forever. Sometimes it just hides, waiting, watching, and soon it would speak, and when it did, everything would change again. Ellie couldn't stop staring at the flash drive. She carried it everywhere, in her backpack, her pocket, even under her pillow, not because of the song, but because of what it meant. A door had opened, one that couldn't be closed again. At school, people treated her differently, not in obvious ways, but in that quiet, sharp-edged kind of way. A pause before someone said her name, a glance exchanged across the hallway. A girl whispered to another in class, "She's the one who got stolen, right?" She wasn't even sure how they knew, but secrets in small towns never stayed secret for long. She told herself it didn't matter, but it did. It mattered every time she looked in the mirror, and didn't quite know who was staring back. Ellie. Amara. E. Bennett Holloway. They were all her, and none of them felt complete. That's when she started digging. She needed answers, real ones, not from the news articles, not from the pamphlets, but from the cracks in the silence. She went back to the clinic, the place where her parents said she'd been left. It had changed since then. New paint, new management, but the receptionist was the same, an older woman with cropped gray hair and deep-set eyes. Ellie waited until no one else was around. Then she stepped up to the desk and said the sentence she'd been rehearsing in her head for days. "I think I was left here 8 years ago, as a baby." The woman froze. Her pen hovered over the appointment book. Then, slowly, she looked up. "What did you say your name was?" Ellie hesitated. I don't know." The woman stared at her for a long moment, then stood. "Wait here." She disappeared into a back room. Ellie's hands were sweating. Her heart beat so fast it hurt. When the woman returned, she was holding a thin manila folder, old, worn, faded at the edges. She slid it across the counter. "I'm not supposed to give this out." "But you're not a stranger, are you?" Ellie opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, no signature. No date, just one line. "Please take care of her. I can't keep her safe anymore." And a name, scrawled in shaky ink. M. Ellie's stomach turned. M.L., she whispered. Who's that? The woman shook her head. I don't know. The person who dropped you off didn't give their name. Did you see them? I wasn't here that night. I heard about it from the nurse on duty. Said it was a man. Hoodie. Sunglasses. Left the baby in a car seat at the door and rang the bell. Security? Cameras didn't work back then. Of course they didn't. Ellie copied the note and left. M.L. 2 letters, but they felt heavier than anything she'd ever held. That night, she showed the note to her mom. Her mom went pale. Her hands trembled. I've seen this handwriting before, she whispered. Ellie leaned forward. Where? Her mom hesitated. I'm not sure. It feels familiar. Something from work, maybe. Years ago? What do you mean? But she didn't answer. She just got up and walked into the kitchen. Like the question hadn't been asked, Ellie followed her. Who's M. Cyril? I don't know, but her voice was too fast, too flat. She was lying. Her dad walked in, saw the note, and froze. He didn't even try to hide it. He just stared at the letters like they were ghosts. M.L., he said quietly. No, it can't be. Ellie felt a chill crawl up her spine. You know who it is? He looked at her mom, and that silence between them. It was louder than anything Ellie had ever heard. Finally, her dad spoke. When your mom and I were trying to have kids before we adopted you, we went to a support group for people struggling with infertility. Ellie's breath caught. There was a man there, nice at first, talked a lot, shared stories. But something about him, it was off. Her mom added, he was obsessed with the idea of fate, of deserving children. He believed some people were chosen to be parents, others weren't. Ellie's mouth was dry. What was his name? Her dad's voice dropped. Marcus Lorne. M.L. Ellie whispered it like a curse. Did he work at the clinic? No, her mom said, but he lived near it. And what happened to him? Her parents exchanged a look. We don't know. One day, he just stopped showing up, disappeared. Her mom added, we always wondered. He made strange comments about how the system was broken, how good people never got the kids they deserved. Ellie felt sick. Are you saying, you think he took me? We don't know, her dad said quickly. We don't know that. But Ellie could see it in their eyes. They did believe it, and maybe so did she. She stayed up that night, looking up everything she could on Marcus Lorne. There wasn't much. A few old posts in online forums, an archived news article about his wife's death years earlier, a blurry photo of a man in a windbreaker standing at a gravesite. The caption read, "Local man mourns wife, expresses desire to adopt." The article was from 9 years ago, 1 year before Ellie was found. She leaned closer to the screen, something about his face. It felt familiar, but not in a clear way. Not a memory, more like a shadow at the edge of one. She closed the laptop. There was only one thing left to do. She had to find him. The next day, she asked her caseworker if Marcus Lorne had ever been questioned. The woman blinked, surprised. You know that name? I need to find him. That's not your job, Ellie. No, she said quietly, but it's my life. The caseworker hesitated, then sighed. Last I heard, he was in a rural care facility, declining mental health, no visitors in years. Can I go? Legally? You're a minor. You'd need your parents' permission, both sets of them. She asked the Holloways first. They said yes. Then she asked the Bennetts. Gregory's jaw tightened, but he didn't say no. He just asked one thing. Why do you need to see him? Ellie didn't hesitate. Because someone made a choice for me, and I need to look that choice in the face. They all drove together. 2 cars, 2 families, following the same road toward a man none of them had ever truly understood. The care. Home sat on the edge of the woods. Quiet. Too quiet. Inside, a nurse led her down a hallway that smelled of antiseptic and old linen. He doesn't talk much anymore, she warned. Sometimes stares at the wall for hours. Ellie walked in alone. Marcus Lorne was thinner than the photo. His hair was white. His hands twitched. He sat in a chair looking out a window. didn't turn when she entered. She stood there, frozen. Then, softly, she said, "Do you know me?" He didn't move. She stepped closer. "I'm Amara Bennett, or maybe I'm Eleanor Holloway, depends who you ask." No response. She pulled the note from her pocket, held it up. "This your handwriting?" Still nothing. Then his eyes twitched. Not much, just enough. He saw her. She stepped in front of him. "Why did you take me?" No answer. She leaned in. "What did you think gave you the right?" Then he blinked and whispered, "You were crying." Ellie stopped breathing. "You were crying, all alone." No one came. His voice was thin. "Barely there. I waited. Waited. A long time. They didn't come back." "Who?" He didn't answer. Just stared past her. "Too cold. Too dark. You needed someone. So you took me." He didn't blink. "You needed someone." Tears slid down her face. She didn't know if it was anger or pity or the crushing weight of 8 years lost. "You could have called someone," she said. He didn't reply. "You could have taken me to the police." Still silence. "You could have done anything but this." His lips moved, but the words weren't clear. She leaned closer. "What did you say?" He blinked, then whispered, "They were never coming back." And in that moment, Ellie understood. Whoever left her, they meant to. And Marcus Lorne wasn't her kidnapper. He was her rescuer, or maybe her second mistake. Ellie left the care home with legs that barely moved. The wind outside felt sharper now, the sky grayer. Marcus Lorne hadn't kidnapped her, not in the way everyone assumed. He hadn't crept into a house and stolen her from a crib he'd found. Her, left, abandoned, crying, and he'd made a choice. A twisted, imperfect choice. But a choice no one else had made. The weight of it pressed on her chest. She didn't speak in the car. Not to her mom. Not to her dad, not to either of them. Because something deeper had cracked inside her. This wasn't about Marcus anymore. This was about them. The people who had walked away. The ones who'd left her. Whoever they were. Wherever they were. They were still out there. She could feel it. That night, she stared at the ceiling of her room. A room that had once felt safe. Now it just felt borrowed. Everything did. Every photo on the wall. Every pillow. Every blanket. Even her reflection in the mirror looked like it belonged to someone else. She grabbed her laptop, opened the search bar, typed in every phrase she could think of. Baby girl abandoned outside clinic 8 years ago. Missing. Infants 2015. Unidentified toddler left medical center. She clicked through every link, every thread until she found a blog, old, barely active, titled For Amara. Her heart stopped. She clicked it. The homepage was simple, just one photo, a pair of tiny shoes on a doormat, and underneath, "I never stopped looking for you." Her pulse thundered in her ears. She scrolled down. The posts were erratic, years apart, sometimes only a few sentences, sometimes just a photo, a drawing, a date, a memory. One post read, "You love the rain. You would giggle at the thunder." Another, "Your favorite toy was a bear with one missing eye. You called him Boo." Ellie sat up straight. Boo. She remembered that. Barely, but it was there, in the dusty corners of her brain, a flash of brown fur, a tiny stitched eye. She ran to the attic, sifted through every box until her fingers hit soft cloth. There he was, Boo, old faded, one eye gone. She clutched him to her chest. He wasn't from the Bennetts. He wasn't from the Holloways. He was hers. And so was this blog. Who was writing it? She searched for contact info. There was none, but the last post had a timestamp, only 2 weeks ago. She copied the IP from the source code, used a tracker site. It pinged back to a location, only an hour away. Her hand shook. She didn't ask anyone for permission. She just left, took her bike. The wind stung her eyes, but she didn't stop. She reached the edge of a sleepy little town, found the address, a modest home, overgrown yard. Peeling paint, she knocked, waited, knocked again. The door creaked open. A woman stood there, mid-30s, tired eyes, soft features, and when she saw Ellie, her face collapsed, not in fear, not in shock, but in recognition, as if someone had returned. From the dead, Ellie's voice barely came out. Is this your blog? The woman nodded slowly. Tears welled up instantly. You're her, she whispered. You're my daughter. Ellie's legs gave out. The woman caught her, held her, like she had done it 1,000,000 times before, and yet not once in the past. 8 years. When they sat down inside, the woman introduced herself, Maya Lorne. Ellie blinked. Lorne? She nodded. Marcus was my brother. Ellie felt her stomach turn. He found you, but he never told me. I searched for years. I thought I'd made the worst mistake of my life. Ellie couldn't breathe. You left me. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean to. I was alone. I know. You never came back. I tried. Ellie stood up. You tried. There was someone. He was dangerous, controlling. He said if I ever left, he'd hurt you. So I ran. I thought I could come back. I planned to. But when I returned, you were gone. No one knew where. Ellie felt like the room was spinning. He said he'd kill me if. I spoke your name again, so I stayed quiet. But I never stopped looking. She pointed to the blog. It was the only thing I had, just in case. Someday, you'd find me. Ellie sat back down. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But why didn't you tell the police? I did. I filed a report, but with no proof, no ID. They thought I was unstable. The system failed us both. Ellie looked around the house. It was small, worn. But there were photos on the mantel, a baby girl in a pink blanket, Maya holding her. Ellie swallowed hard. Was that me? Maya nodded. Ellie touched the frame. Everything she'd wanted was right here. But it was tangled in thorns, in fear, regret, silence. She stayed for hours, asked every question her heart had stored away. Maya answered with open wounds, with a pain that hadn't dulled in 8 years, but not once did she try to make excuses. She only apologized, over and over, and Ellie could see it, the shame, the guilt, the love, raw, unfiltered. They weren't strangers, but they weren't quite family. Yet when Ellie finally left, she said, I don't know what to do now. Maya nodded. You don't have to know yet. Just come back when you're ready. Ellie rode home in silence. She didn't tell anyone. Not that night, not the next. She kept it inside, let it breathe in the quiet. The next week, she sat down. With both families, the Bennetts, the Holloways, told them everything. No one interrupted, not even Gregory. Her adoptive mom held her hand. Her Holloway mom wiped her eyes. Her dad leaned forward and whispered, We always knew there was more. Then he asked the question, What now? Ellie didn't have an answer because how could she choose between families, between the ones who raised her and the one who made her? She looked at the cake on the table. It was her birthday again, one of them, the first one she ever had, the real one. Not the day she was found, but the day she was born. And for the first time in years, she blew out the candles, not as Ellie, not as Amara, but as both, one person, two families, and a story that wasn't over yet, but maybe just beginning. She started visiting Maya once a week, always alone. No one pushed her. No one asked too many questions, not her adoptive parents, not her biological ones, because now everyone had accepted something new. This wasn't a story with clean lines. It didn't come with labels or easy answers, but it was hers. Ellie was rebuilding something, memory by memory. She sat in Maya's tiny kitchen and listened to old lullabies, sung in off-key whispers. She flipped through battered photo albums. She smelled the vanilla-scented lotion Maya used to wear and felt something in her chest loosen. Maya showed her the box, the one she'd kept all these years. Inside were baby shoes, a hospital bracelet with her birth name, Amara Lorne, and a folded-up letter, never mailed. It was addressed simply, To my daughter, when you're ready to hear the truth. Ellie read it in silence. She didn't cry. She just let the words sink in. Then she folded it back up and tucked it into her jacket. She wasn't ready to forgive everything, But she was ready to try, and that was enough. For now. One day, Ellie asked a question that had haunted her. "Why did Marcus never tell you he found me?" Maya looked down. Her fingers trembled as they gripped a chipped mug. "I think he didn't know how." She shook her head slowly. "He wasn't well." After what he'd been through, the things he'd seen, he started to believe the only way to protect you was to keep you hidden. From everyone. Even me. Ellie's voice came out low. "But you were his sister." I think he forgot who he was. Silence stretched between them until Maya added, almost a whisper, "And I think I did too." That night Ellie stood outside for a long time, watching the stars blink to life. The same sky she'd looked at as a child, wondering who she was. Now, she still didn't fully know, but the question didn't burn as much. She felt something softer in its place. A slow healing. A truth that wasn't clean or painless, but real. She returned home, sat on her bed, opened her journal, wrote a new line at the top of the page. "I was born twice." And it was true. Once into a life that got taken from her. Once into a life that tried to make up for it. Both had shaped her. Both had broken her. And both had given her strength she didn't know she had. Later that month she sat between Maya and her adoptive mom at a small cafe. An awkward lunch. Laughter that came in stumbles. But it was a start. She glanced up at both women. Two different smiles. Two different kinds of love. And for once, she didn't feel torn in half. She felt whole. Rewritten, yes, but whole. At school, people still whispered. Rumors had spread fast after the police report was quietly closed. Someone had leaked a detail. The girl with 2 birthdays. Some kids asked if it was true. She never denied it. She just smiled and said, "Yeah, I'm twice as old as you think," and walked away, because the story didn't belong to them. It belonged to her, and she was learning how to carry it with pride. Her birthday came around again. The other one, the day she was found, the day her life had splintered. This time, she asked for something simple. She invited all 3 families. They came. Maya brought the cake. Her dad brought photos. Her moms brought flowers. No one knew exactly what to say, so they said very little. But they were there in the same room, at the same table, and that was more than Ellie had ever dreamed possible. After everyone left, she sat on the porch with Boo in her lap. The one-eyed bear was missing a stitch now, but he still held together. So did she. And as the wind stirred her hair, she whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Not to Boo, not to Marcus, not to Maya, but to herself, because through every broken truth, every betrayal, every lie told to protect or conceal, she had survived. She had become someone, not because of the families who tried to define her, but because she dared to ask the question no one wanted to answer. Why do I have 2 birthdays? And when she did, the world shattered. But from the pieces, she built something better, not perfect, but hers. And in the quiet of that evening, with the stars peeking through the clouds again, she finally understood some truths break us, but the ones we seek for ourselves, those are the ones that set us free.